my lovely Holbrookinis, it's lovely to see you. It's me, Mrs. Hills, and as it's such a horrible, grisly, rainy day, I thought I'd use the opportunity to make another little video and tell you another story. And today I've chosen The Snail and the Whale, which is one of my favourite stories by one of my favourite authors, Julia Donaldson. While I'm reading this, I'd like you to think in your head, which of our school values does this story show? Now, I've got one in my head and I'm wondering if you can work it out. Let's read the story, The Snail and the Whale. This is a tale of a tiny snail and a great big grey blue humpback whale. This is a rock as black as soot, and this is a snail with an itchy foot. The sea snail slithered all over the rock and gazed at the sea and the ships in the dock. And as she gazed, she sniffed and sighed. The sea is deep and the world is wide. How I long to sail, said the tiny snail. Can you spot the tiny snail in the picture? Well done. These are the other snails in the flock, who all stuck tight to a smooth black rock, and said to the snail with the itchy foot, "Be quiet, don't wriggle, sit still, stay put." But the tiny sea snail sighed and sniffed, then cried, "I've got it, I'll hitch a lift." This is the trail of the tiny snail, a slivery trail that looped and curled and said, "Lift wanted around the world." Gosh, it must have taken that snail a long time to make that message. This is a whale who came one night when the tide was high and the stars were bright. Our humpback whale, immensely long, who sang to the snail a wonderful song of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves. And this is the tale of the humpback whale. He held it out of the starlit sea and said to the snail, "Come sail with me." This is the sea, so wild and free, that carried the whale and the snail on his tail. I'm wondering, can anyone spot any animals other than the snail and the whale that they can spot in this area? To towering icebergs and far-off lands, with fiery mountains and golden sands. What other animals can you spot in that picture? I can spot one of my favourite animals in that, turtle. These are the waves that arched and crashed, that foamed and frolicked and sprayed and splashed. The tiny snail on the tail of the whale. These are the caves beneath the waves, where stripy fish with feathery fins and sharks with hideous, toothy grins swam round the whale and the snail on the tail. I wonder how that snail might be feeling with those sharks making those awful toothy grins. I wonder if you can think of a word to describe how that snail might feel. This is the sky, so vast and high, sometimes sunny and blue and warm, sometimes filled with a thunderstorm, with zigzag lightning flashing and frightening the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. Goodness me, she's going through a real journey around the ocean, isn't she? And she gazed at the sky, the sea, the land, the waves and the caves and the golden sand. She gazed and gazed, amazed by it all, and said to the whale, "I feel so small." Wow, if you look at that picture, where do you think they might be now? We've got some mountains and we've got some eagles and some bears. I wonder if anyone will be able to work out with that information where they might be. But then came the day the whale lost his way. There are speedboats running a race, zigging and zooming all over the place, upsetting this whale with their ear-splitting roar, making him swim too close to the shore. Goodness me, what do we think is going to happen next? This is the tide slipping away. Why is that bad if the tide's slipping away? I wonder if you know. Oh dear me. And this is the whale lying beached in a bay. Quick, off the sand, back to sea, cried the snail. I can't move on land, I'm too big, moaned the whale. The snail felt helpless and terribly small. Then, I've got it, she cried, and started to crawl. I must not fail, said the tiny snail. Goodness me, if she's starting to crawl. Now, are snails really super fast like a cheetah, or are they really slow? Oh, goodness me, I think that's going to take her quite a long time, isn't it? This is the bell on the school in the bay, ringing the children in from their play. This is the teacher holding her chalk, telling the class, sit straight, don't talk. This is the board as black as soot. And this is the snail with an itchy foot. A snail, a snail! The teacher turns pale. Look, said the children, it's leaving a trail. This is a trail of the tiny snail, a slivery trail saying, save the whale. She must have worked really, really hard to get that far and not give up at all. These are the children running from school, fetching the fireman digging a pool, squirting and spraying to keep the whale cool. And this is the tide coming into the bay. And these are the villagers shouting hooray as the whale and the snail travel safely away. Back to the dock and the flock on the rock, who says, how time's flown and haven't you grown? And the whale and the snail told their wonderful tale of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves, and of how the snail, so small and frail, with her looping, curling, silvery trail, saved the life of a humpback whale. Then the humpback whale held out his tail, and on crawled snail after snail after snail. Oh, can you see them? How many are there? I'm wondering if you can count. There they are on his tail. And they sang to the sea as they all set sail on the tail of the grey-blue humpback whale. Oh, that is such a lovely story, isn't it, the snail and the whale? Now, I'm wondering if you can think about which of our school values I was thinking about. Any ideas? Now, the one I thought about was real resilience, because towards the end, the snail had to get all the way from the beach all the way up to the blackboard, and that would have taken a really long time for the snail. It would be like us running a marathon, a really long distance, and she'd have to keep talking to herself to say, keep going, you can do it. And it reminds me a little bit what maybe we're going through at the moment, because it's a bit of a strange time at the moment. We're having to stay indoors and we're having to do things a bit differently. Maybe you might be missing your friends and a bit of your family a little bit. But we can be a bit like that snail, and we can make a big difference, and we can have that resilience. Now, the snail is only a small little thing compared to that massive whale, but he managed to save the whale, didn't he? She managed to do that. So although you might think you're a little bit small, and maybe you think, oh, I can't really do much, if we have that resilience, we can help other people and have compassion and help them to keep going and have the resilience as well. So I'm wondering if you can think of any ideas that you could do as a little person to cheer someone up and help them to have resilience in this time as well, to keep on going. Maybe you could send someone a nice card and tell them to keep going and that you believe in them. Maybe you could make someone a special gift, or you could even just help your mummy or daddy or whoever's at home around the house a little bit by keeping your bedroom tidy and helping them out so they have resilience as well. So although you might only be small like a snail, you can make a difference, just like the snail did to the whale. Now, if you like that story, there will be some crafts that you can do, which I will link to this video. And if you really liked it, on BBC iPlayer at the moment, they've got a film of the snail and whale, so you can watch it again. Anyway, lovely to see you, and I will see you again soon. Stay safe, lots of love, bye bye.